devil doesn't originate anything. His way of doing everything is to look at what does God do and how can I imitate that.
Why is a satanic temple in Texas suing the state over its new abortion restrictions? Answer: because My Body, My Choice isn't just a rallying cry for abortion activists. It's a central satanic doctrine. Their common worship of absolute individual autonomy has led the Satanist movement to cozy up to the pro-abortion left. As similar as they are these two movements one and the same, or are they just strange bedfellows? We'll explore this today on The Mark Harrington Show. Activist Radio, The Mark Harrington Show is brought to you by Created Equal, and you can support our ministry and the radio program by going to markharringtonshow.com. So today we're going to be talking about the discussion of abortion, the doctrine of demons, and we're going to be considering abortion in the context of its spiritual foundations. That is, the satanic foundations of abortion. And the reason why I'm doing this today is because a while back we released this film, this documentary called Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons. And it is really our premier project, a DVD, a documentary, basically discussing the spiritual roots of abortion. Now, a lot of people don't think abortion has any kind of spiritual connotations or roots. Well, we debunk that myth on this DVD, and we're going to be talking about that today, the film Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons, because I want to revisit this topic because we are seeing more and more activity from the abortion movement in overtly discussing abortion in the context of Satanism. So we're going to be talking about that today on the program. And why is it that this is a discussion for us to consider? And that is because a lot of people think abortion is a political issue, or they'll say abortion is an issue of education or many other things. It's a constitutional issue, or it's a scientific issue. All these things are true, but really at the core of it, abortion is a spiritual issue. It's a gospel issue. And the reason why we know about that is because we're the ones who go to college and high school campuses. We discuss abortion with young people, and it almost always ends up at the talking about it as a spiritual issue. And we've seen a rise of this kind of thing within the abortion movement, and that's why I want to discuss it today on the program. One of the tenets of the Satanic temple, and they do have tenets, they have doctrine. They basically are a religion, if you believe, and they're also really a church, if you will. At least they consider themselves one, and they've actually gotten nonprofit status from the United States federal government as far as their IRS status. That means that they are considered a 501c3, just like any other evangelical or Catholic church in America. Which is really interesting. They have applied for that. They have become a church in the sense of what the IRS recognizes. We understand, of course, they're not a church, but they are religious and they are spiritual. And Satanists and abortion supporters all believe in the concept of bodily autonomy. Now, we've heard a lot about that recently in relationships to the vaccine, and that is that there have been high-profile people, including Kyrie Irving and others who are in the sports world, who have basically claimed that they are obligated, I guess, to not take the vaccine because they have autonomy over their own bodies. Now, in the sense of the vaccine, I think that's actually true. Bodily autonomy, unfortunately, is also used to justify abortion. And the Satanic Temple has as one of its tenets the concept of bodily autonomy, which extends to their right, if you will, to have an abortion. In fact, they say that it is an act of worship, that it's a worthy form of worship because one of their tenets states, quote, one's body is inviolable, subject to one's will. So this idea, this notion, this doctrine of absolute bodily autonomy is central to Satanism and the Satanic temple, and it ends up finding itself in the rallying cry of the pro-abortion movement, my body, my rights, my choice. So that is why, at the core, Satanism is pro-abortion. And so it's not true that all pro-choice people are Satanists. Let me make that clear. Of course, they're not all Satanists, but some Satanists are also pro-abortion. Many of them are, because this is one of their doctrines. And so what I want to do today is kind of go through the film, the documentary film, which is Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons. And I'm going to exhort you to go ahead and pick this up. We are going to be giving this away free, and I'm going to be giving you information later in the program as to how you can pick up this DVD and watch it yourself or play it for your church or others, your small group, Bible study, or what have you, to educate your congregation in the truth about what Satanism teaches as it relates to abortion. And I just want to start by playing some of the clips of the video. Now, the first clip talks about how abortion is a satanic rite. So go ahead and play that clip.
The devil doesn't originate anything. You know, his way of doing everything is to look at what does God do and how can I imitate that.
Okay, so the point here, and by the way, that's Zachary King. I'm going to be talking about him in a minute, but he is a former high wizard of the Satanic Church who converted to Christianity. That's his voice, and he is featured prominently within the DVD, the documentary. And basically, he talks about what we all know, and that is that Satan doesn't originate anything, that he copies God, he imitates God. And in fact, the Bible says in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So we understand that Satan disguises himself like God to deceive human beings into believing that he is like God or he is God. We all know that in the Garden of Eden, that's the lie that he told Adam and Eve, that if you do this, if you disobey God, you will be like him. And so we understand that there is a connection between this notion of Satanism and the idea that he doesn't originate anything himself and he imitates God. Now, the second clip talks about how the Satanic temple believes that abortion is actually a rite or a ritual that they perform. Go ahead and play that clip.
Of Satanism.
Are you aware that the Satanic temple calls abortion one of their rights?
Hail Satan!
Hey! Yeah, because abortion is a right.
Not everybody is a Christian.
Are you a Satanist?
You know what? They're better than you are.
Wrong with it.
I've worked with them before, actually. I've talked with the Church of Satan. They're very nice people, and they actually take care of their people and are better advocates for human life than you are. I have worked with them in the past.
You work with the Satanists?
Yes.
Sir, you can't.
So here's the bottom line on this. Here's the facts. And that is, not all pro-abortion advocates are Satanists. However, more and more identify with Satanism, and some are part of the Satanic temple. During our outreaches, more often, we are seeing people who are Satanists overtly. They have the pentagram, they're casting spells and things like that. So it's more and more prevalent that pro-abortion advocates are identifying with Satanism, and they're more overt about it. They're out of the closet, if you will. They're very clear about their intentions and their beliefs that abortion is founded in Satanism. So that's something we need to understand as Christians, that we are dealing with a satanic rite, that it's a ritual of Satanism and the Satanic temple. Now, this next clip talks about how this the way that Satanists worship is through activism. Go ahead and play that clip.
Little by little, taking away reproductive rights. So it is our duty to worship through activism. That is the key to the Satanic Temple, what differentiates us from other Satanists.
Why is reproductive rights such a good fit for the Satanic Temple?
So we just have 7 tenets, and they're rather humanistic and straightforward. They're the third tenet that states the body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone, and that we should defer to scientific fact the best we can.
So there you go. So the point here that's being made by these Satanists is that the way they worship Satan is through activism, and one of those ways is supporting pro-abortion activities and projects. In other words, it's kind of the reverse of good works, if you will, on the Christian side, and that is that we serve God and we serve others, that we love God and we love our neighbor. In the Satanic world, their good works, if you will, are done through activism, and that is often being done through supporting abortion. And that's why they say that one's own body is inviolable. It cannot be violated, and it's subject to one's own will. So Satan is a rebel. He rebels against God. One way he does that is that we exert or if you're a Satanist, you exert your own bodily autonomy, which extends to the ability to kill your own children. Now, from the pro-abortion side, we often hear this argument, right? We understand that they say bodily autonomy, my rights, my body, my rights, my choice. We hear that all the time from the pro-abortion side. In fact, it is the most common mantra that we hear at protests, my body, my rights. That's what we call bodily autonomy. Now, what we understand, of course, is there are limitations to bodily autonomy. We believe in bodily autonomy within limits, right? And I've said this before, and we understand it, that my bodily autonomy ends when I swing my hand and it hits you in the nose. In other words, I have the ability to use my body as I wish. I have autonomy to do what I want with it when it comes to my fist. But when I hit you in the nose, that's where it ends. In other words, we have bodily autonomy, but we can't use that to harm others. And that's where abortion comes in, because we don't have indefinite bodily autonomy or absolute bodily autonomy. It ends when we harm someone. And in this case, we are harming an unborn child that happens to reside within a woman's body. So there are limits to bodily autonomy on abortion. And when it comes to that, it's not about her body. It's about another body. It's not about her choice. It's about the choice of that unborn child that doesn't have one. So women who exert bodily autonomy cannot do that or extend that to abortion, because the body within her is not her body. That body is unique. That is the unborn child. It's separate and distinct. The child within her is whole and alive. So it's not about her body. It's about someone else's body, a growing body inside hers with separate DNA, commonly a separate blood type, eye color, and other traits. So this idea of bodily autonomy has limitations. But the point being made here is that Satanists worship the devil, Satan, that is, through activism, and that often finds its way into the pro-abortion activism. The idea that a woman has a right to choose and has control over her own body, it falls into the category of SLED. And I've brought this up before. There's an acronym we use to support the pro-life position, and it's the acronym of SLED, S-L-E-D. S-L-E-D, that's size, location, environment, and dependency. When it comes to the unborn child, they do reside within the mother's womb, within her body. In other words, they are in the environment of the mother, but they aren't the mother. So it's not about my body, my rights, my choice. All right, so here's the next clip. Now, this is Zachary King, and Zachary King is a former high wizard of the Satanic Church who converted to Christianity, and he's featured in the film Doctrine of Demons. He was raised in a Christian home. He joined a Satanic coven and sold his soul to the devil at age 13. Now, think about that. Age 13, this man sold himself to the devil. 3 months before he turned 15, he assisted in his first ritual abortion, where the objective was to get blood on his hands. At age 21, he was in a Satanic church as a high wizard. Think about that. At age 21, and one of the only few in the world, and he was rumored to have been handpicked by Satan himself. And by the time he converted, King had assisted in 146 abortions. One of those was he performed blessings in abortion facilities, and now he travels the country talking about the connections between abortion and Satanism. So go ahead and play this clip. Again, this is Zachary King talking about how child sacrifice is part of Satanism. Go ahead.
At my very first assisted abortion, which was the ones that I did, when you're doing an abortion, blood is the binding agent in a satanic anything. Ultimately, you're wanting the blood of the baby because that's the satanic sacrifice.
Well, there you go. That's Zachary King, again, highly featured in the video, Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons. And folks, what I want you to do today, if you want to get your hands on this video, this DVD, we're going to give it away free here at the Mark Harrington Show. And you can do that by going to markharringtonshow.com. On the side of the homepage, there's a little tab that you can click on, which will allow you to send a message to our ministry. And you can just say, I would like the DVD entitled Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons, and we will send it out to you for free. No charge, by going to markharringtonshow.com. And like I say, you can take this DVD, you can show it to your church group, show it to your small group, your Bible study, and that will educate them on the connection between abortion and Satanism, which I think is hugely important for us to understand, that we're not just dealing with some political issue, some educational issue, some philosophical, constitutional issue. We're talking about, at the bottom line, the foundations. This is a spiritual issue in which Christians have to be equipped to fight using spiritual weapons. So again, go to markharringtonshow.com to get a free copy of Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons. All right, so we're going to move on to another clip here. This is where the Satanists discuss how that Satan is the symbolic embodiment of the rebel against tyranny or God's law. Go ahead and play that clip.
The Satanic figure in the Bible is one that really inspires a rebellion in mankind against a tyrannical God.
But you don't, actually worship Satan.
We don't believe in, like a guy with a red poker down in hell waiting for us to torment us for the rest of our life.
Joining us now, Lucian Graves, spokesman for the Satanic Temple.
Essentially, we view Satan as a symbolic embodiment of the ultimate rebel against tyranny.
Well, there you go. So, the truth of the matter is Satanists, or those people that belong to the Church of Satan or the Satanic Temple, many of them would say they don't worship Satan as some kind of character. What they do worship is themselves, really, which is really at the heart of sin, right? It's a rebellion against God, and because of that, they can worship this idea, this notion of ultimate tyranny, which is a rebellion against God. And that works itself out, as you could imagine, in many different ways. One of those is rebelling against his created order, which says that we are made in the image of God, that we're created in his image and his likeness. And Satanism teaches that we rebel against that we are not created in God's image. We're just a accumulation of cells, and that we are to just live out our lives as we wish, and in the belief that there is no God. So that is why, when it comes to abortion, we cannot, as the pro-life movement, fight with just the arm of the flesh. That is, we cannot use just argumentation itself, logic, philosophy, science, although those are all important, constitutional arguments. Those are important, and all truth is God's truth. We understand that. But without bringing in the spiritual piece, we are not adequately addressing the problem. And so, unfortunately, much of the pro-life movement has ignored the spiritual roots of abortion in Satanism itself. And so doing, have left off the table, I think, one of our most powerful arguments, the spiritual argument and the introduction of the gospel. And so I believe, and that's why it Created Equal, we do a very hard thing. We are actually believing that we can introduce the gospel as part of an overall and comprehensive approach to dealing with the abortion issue, and do it in a way that won't be off-putting, that people will actually take our message and listen to it and learn. A lot of people are under the idea or the notion, I think falsely, that once you bring abortion, or once you bring the gospel or spiritual understanding into the abortion debate, you're going to alienate non-believers. Well, that may be true at some level when people think that, oh, this is just about the Bible and that you only believe abortion's wrong because you're a Christian. There will be those who will just say, well, I'm not going to think of or talk to you any further. That is true. But that's true of anything. They're already put us in that category. Whether we put ourselves in that category as being Christians or religious or not, they're doing it anyway, because that is the stereotype that the media and others have been presenting to the American people for decades now, and that is that pro-life, anti-abortion advocates are religious. And for the most part, that's true. We should not be ashamed of that, because it's the power of God. The gospel is the power of God unto salvation. We can change someone's mind on abortion through our arguments, through our arguments using good logic and philosophy and science and legal arguments, and that's all good. And we might get them to change their position on abortion, but if they don't change their hearts ultimately on the gospel, I believe we have failed, and we've left one of our most powerful arguments and tools off the table. And that is why Created Equal does things differently. We believe that the gospel has to be part and parcel with our presentation on abortion, and we are not afraid to go there. We are not ashamed of the gospel, and we shouldn't be, because that is the power of God. And when we're dealing with a spiritual problem at the root of it, and that is our rebellion against God and his created order, and we believe in abortion because of that, we've got to deal with the root cause. Because people are having abortions because they rebel against God. That's the bottom line. We understand that being the root problem, the symptom being abortion. We don't want to just deal with the symptoms, although that is still important to try to get people to change their minds on abortion. We got to change their hearts, and we can only do that through the gospel of Jesus Christ. All right, we got one more clip here. This talks about how abortion is a gospel issue, and it is the power of God, and it cannot be left out of our discussion about abortion. Go ahead and play that clip.
Continue to be sacrificed. But while ancient, child sacrifice has often been defeated. In the past, Christians put an end to these practices. Atheist and influential bioethicist Peter Singer blames Christianity for ending Roman infanticide, wherein sick and deformed babies were sacrificed for an alleged greater good. There was light which shone into the darkness to end that evil. This ended child sacrifice in the centuries following Christ's resurrection, and that light will end it today. The darkness is not impenetrable. Light has come. That light is God himself, revealed to man in the person of Jesus. This is the God who commands us to love our children, be kind and merciful to our neighbor, and showed us the ultimate act of love in his sacrifice on the cross. This is the God so many abortion advocates hate. This is the God who has provided atonement for the sin of man by offering himself in our place.
All right, well, there we go. That's my colleague, Seth Dreyer, who's the vice president here at Created Equal. And Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 15, he says, people do not light a lamp and put it under a basket, but they put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. And so it's the light of the gospel that has to be presented when we're talking about abortion, along with all the other arguments. We need to have a well-rounded worldview, Christian worldview, that includes the gospel of Jesus Christ, because at the heart of it, we're dealing with a spiritual issue which is rooted in the rebellion against God and his created order. And that is one of the tenets of the Satanic temple, and that's why I'm talking about it today. So, folks, I want you to take action. The first thing you can do is go to markharringtonshow.com, send us an email, click on the tab on the side that says send a comment, and just let us know you would like to get the DVD, Abortion, a Doctrine of Demons, for free, and we'll send it out to you, no charge. And you can use this to share at your Bible study, at your church, or wherever you wish. Also, you can subscribe to our podcast. Please do that. You can listen to our program 24/7. Do that by going to markharringtonshow.com. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to make a difference for the cause of life, liberty, and justice, go to createdequal.org. To follow Mark, go to markharringtonshow.com. Be sure to tune in next time for your marching orders in the culture war.